let's talk about you. Well, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your story, because I actually referenced you yesterday on the podcast because you're from Chicago, right? But you live in Los Angeles.
Yes, originally from Chicago, and then I grew up in like middle of nowhere cornfields in Illinois. Yeah. Lived in San Francisco area for about 6 years and just moved to LA a few months ago.
How's that going?
It's pretty good. LA's actually treating me well, believe it or not.
It's not going too badly.
Well, I've heard so many bad things about it from also like other people who've been on the show. People like Blair White, she left Hollywood for Austin, Texas. And then just recently Decoy Voice was talking to us about it. How close are you to the hellscape areas of LA?
So I was very particular to not live in the pit of hell of LA. Yeah. So my area is like decently safe. Like I don't see like homeless everywhere. But if you go like 5 minutes up the road, it's like all homeless. Yeah. So it's very dependent on where you are.
Well, it's like we were talking about HRH Collection on the show previously, and how she has been moving around different places in LA trying to escape this, exactly what we're talking about. She lived in like Brentwood in a really, really nice area where like people have G-Wagons in their driveways and there are homeless people like literally taking dumps in their driveways because you can't enforce the law anymore. So I'm glad that you're not subjected to that.
Not yet, at least. I mean, where I'm at, I'm getting lucky so far, but it takes one crackhead to ruin your entire day. Mm-hmm. Like I met a friend when I first moved to LA, and we moved there within like a week of each other. And a couple weeks later, I see on his Instagram story, there were bullet holes in his car just in the time of him going to the gas station and coming back. He's like, okay, I'm in Los Angeles now.
That's horrible. Like,
we actually have a coworker who had his car shot at before, though.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
In this area. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we're just becoming like a more violent
America's
country.
just ghetto.
I guess
that's what it comes down to.
It's turning that way.
Well, like even where I lived in Minnesota last, in West St. Paul, like if you go like from my apartment, right? If I go out front of my apartment and I take a right and I go a mile up the road, I'm in the heart of the suburbs, and it's really, really nice. And the schools are nice over there, high median income and everything. If I go left, I'm on a main road from the city of West St. Paul, because to the right, it's Mendota Heights. To the left, it's West St. Paul. West St. Paul is very different from Mendota Heights, and there's only a mile of road that separates the two, right? Like you don't actually realize how close together a lot of this is because of population density, like how close you are to a weird switch in income brackets and stuff like that. Like even the schools on that side of the highway.
But on the other hand, like LA is just this giant sprawling kind of cityscape. But like, how close do you feel to the entertainment industry just being there?
I'm very close to the entertainment industry, so a lot of the times I'm around like just random influencers or actors or actresses, just based on like the restaurants I go and kind of some of the circles I run in. But what's super shocking to me, and you read about this tweet yesterday, is majority of the people that I've met there in the entertainment industry are so against the woke propaganda that's in the space right now. They're annoyed by all of it. They find it just so fraudulent, it's forced, but it's like they're labels that are forcing them to cater to those narratives, or they'll lose record deals, or they'll get canceled by their own fan base. So they're either just quiet or they just like go along with the next thing today. But that's not how most of them actually feel.
It's sort of like having a woke friend who would dump you as a friend if they were aware of your political beliefs or maybe your religious beliefs. It's like, that's not a real friend. And imagine being in the public eye, having a fan base that would immediately turn their backs on you, not support your work anymore if they knew what you really believed about these things. It must be pretty like gut-wrenching to know for them.
I think that's in a lot of ways it's a byproduct now that you're no longer just a musician. Like you're now your own marketing department. We were talking about this yesterday. You can't just be one thing anymore. You have to be your own marketing department. You have to be your own sales department. You're not allowed to just make the music and let the other people do the rest of the work. In a lot of ways, who you are is part of your own brand, because everyone has to brand themselves because of social media. So you don't have that divide. You don't have that gap between you and the fan base anymore. So people get really attached to who they think you are. Mm-hmm. Right?
And have you seen influencer cringe in real life?
Oh, yes.
How badly?
It can be kind of cringe. Like when you see someone, like I go to Catch LA all the time, and it's like when you see people like treating the hallway to get to the tables like a runway, and they're like, oh, I didn't like that. I walked kind of weird. Like, they're just doing it over and over. I'm like, ma'am, can I use the bathroom? Like, you're in the way. In front of people, shamelessly, flash on and everything.
See, like, you would think that narcissists would care more about like what people around them in real life care of their appearance, but they don't. They'll just embarrass themselves like that openly. That's insane.
Yeah, it's really bad. Or like you'll see even people doing like either like a boomerang or whatever, and you'll see them like fake laughing, and they'll be like, huh, like doing these like weird faces.
Yeah,
like,
and pulling it back so that they can do the.
Oh no.
yeah, I'm like, let me just get this B-roll and tag all your fans really quick.
It's so disheartening, is it not? Also, that is true, because to me, like, I would be more worried about looking stupid while recording it in public than I
Right.
would about like
Then how you look in the recording.
yeah, like if anything, I'm recording it
That's called having
surreptitiously.
dignity, though.
Like I'm recording it like this, and I'm like, like you're trying to like, as soon as somebody looks like, nope, no, oh, I'm just typing on my phone. That's what I'm doing. I'm not recording myself.
But at the same time, like, I guess, I don't know if you accept this label, but I would think of you as a type of influencer.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid like those pitfalls of like living for the content, you know?
I mean, it's like you have to have a balance, I guess. And it's just your mentality when you go into it. Like when I'm recording something, I'm not being cringe of like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm going to get so many shares and I want to make so many people like this and comment and all this stuff. It's like, no, like this is what I do. I try to bring awareness to things. I feel like I'm actually doing something productive with how I'm influencing, and I'm actually having substance to what I'm doing. I'm not just being someone out here doing thirst traps trying to get shares.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a very big difference between like pretending you're on a runway in a hallway to being like, these were the statistics of all the protests that went on in the year 2020 and all of the property damage. Like, it's harder to cringe when you're just talking about stuff that's important and stuff that matters, right?
And don't get me wrong, like I love getting a good picture. I love getting like a little dramatic moment for the gram, stuff like that. But I'm not like cringe. Like I have social awareness.
Yeah.
There's like times and places where it's appropriate to like get your little video walking in. But I'm not going to make people move out of the way and part the sea just so I can look like I'm walking on a red carpet. It's like, no, you're actually in the back hallway. This is the least extravagant part of where you're at. It's like some people will go to these restaurants that are really expensive that a lot of celebrities go to. They won't even order anything. They just go and like sip water because they can't even afford to actually buy the food there. They're just doing it for social media optics. It is cringe. It's like, I see your table over there empty.
It's all so fake. Everything's so fake now. Remember we talked about Coachella. People who would just go take pictures in front of Coachella.
Lauren
they didn't actually
Gray
go
made
in.
this TikTok about it, explaining that girls will just drive out to the desert, have outfit changes ready, and just post them on a schedule like Coachella Day 1, Coachella Day 2, but they didn't actually go and see any of the artists, which is honestly not what it's about anymore. It's not about music. It's just about posting on Instagram, and that sucks.
What if you did that and like you take all your pictures, but then it rains on day 2, and they're like, "How could that happen? It was raining at Coachella that day."
Well, it wouldn't
like,
rain at Coachella, right?
I mean, it could still rain, right?
Technically, I mean, it's in a desert, so it's really rare.
don't
But
think it would.
there's apps for that too. There's apps to make it look like it's raining.
There you go. There you go.
Any of these things can be avoided.
So,
the right Photoshop.
There was a really funny thing that you posted about recently that I really laughed at. That was the Kim Kardashian thing, because it's actually true, but it shows like a weird divide. You basically said that she was right when she made her comments about everyone needs to get up and go work, like stop complaining, get up and go work, and that's true, right? Like it's not bad advice. It's just that it's very hard for the average person to like identify with a person of her wealth.
But you don't want to hear it from Kim Kardashian.
No.
That's the problem.
But we should be willing to take good advice if it's good advice.
Right. And it's like unpopular opinion. It's like, yes, her start was as trashy as it possibly could be. And yes, like she's done weird, cringe things to maintain her relevance. And we all know that Kris Jenner works harder than the devil. But I mean, you have to give her some props, because when we talk about how marketing is like a full-time thing right now, she's a marketing genius.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like all these businesses and things she's had, so there is some type of credibility there. But regardless, it could have been a crackhead saying it to you. Get your ass up and work.
Yeah.
So many people want to sit around, wait for handouts, wait for the world to just give them more money. They would get these minimum wage jobs and have those minimum wage jobs be $50 an hour. It's like, no, like how about you actually have some work ethic, and then maybe you can have what you want instead of having your hand out all the time.
Yeah.
But it was a bad thing because Kim said it.
I almost think that work ethic is something you're just born with, or it's not something that you can develop as much as you're just born with it or you're raised to have it.
I think you're raised to have it. That's why Asian American students do so much better than other races, because it's bred into the culture in their family, right?
It is a cultural thing.
Like there's a cultural impact to working hard that a lot of Americans these days, like there was the statistics recently that showed like the most successful Americans by place of origin, right? And like white Americans were like third to last or something like that. Like, did you see it? Did
What,
you see
what did
that?
the what was
I've
the
seen
rest of the list?
Indian Americans, and I'd have to be able to pull it up right there. But
Well, the problem is the list is like just for like all those people who weren't born here.
no, that's what they're
Basically,
talking about. They're
getting
saying like
imported
it
here,
was
yeah.
immigrants were the majority of the highest earnings because they had the highest work ethics, right? Like,
Nigerians are extremely successful.
I think that was up there. That was either top or second to the top, I think. So it's like, yeah, like there's a cultural difference. Now, I think there's also something to be said that when TV, movies, and influencers flaunt wealth at you, it can be very disillusioning for a lot of people when you're working your minimum wage job and you don't feel like you see a way out
It's
of it.
annoying to hear it from Kim specifically because she was born with privilege, was managed
Yeah.
by her mom, blew up because she plotted to sell her sex tape. Like,
Hey
it's
man,
not,
you got something to sell.
like,
That's
that's
the
not
law
mu-
of
I mean,
supply and demand, my friend.
Is that hard work or is that, you know?
It was definitely hard work.
being evil. Like, and also all of these stories came out after she said it from people who had worked for her or worked for her other companies, like their app, like people who worked for the Kardashians app, came out and said like, hey, I worked like 70-hour weeks for you and I was underpaid and couldn't put gas in my car. And that was in response to it because it's like, I think the messenger does matter, but the message, I agree, was valuable. And I wish that it could be received well, but I understand why it couldn't be. Because it's like if Hitler told you not to litter, you'd be like, I mean, yeah, like I'm not going to litter and it's bad, but I don't want to hear it from you, you know? It's
like,
not saying Kim Kardashian is like as bad as Hitler, but she's pretty bad.
It's yeah, I mean, also, but different people.
Not my
will be-
fave Kardashian.
different people will be influenced by different people, right? So, like somebody else might find that inspiring. It wouldn't be me, but there's people out there who are gonna quote Yas Queen Slay and repost it and then go and go to their job at
Be
Sephora
that
and
bitch.
grind, and that's fine, right? Like that's how you work your way up. I don't think there's anything wrong with, in a world full of celebrities pushing bad messages, one of the things we should worry about least are celebrities pushing good messages, even if it's just because we don't want to hear it from them. Like it seems like the last thing we should worry about in society right now. So
Right.
I want to ask about connections between activist groups, because your story was that you were an organizer for BLM, right?
I want to consider myself a full-blown organizer, but I did organize a couple events. But I was an activist for sure.
Yeah.
And back in 2020, because I grew up in a super woke family. My family was really left-wing, very liberal. And then when it came to 2020, I was already for years posting online about BLM activism. And then when George Floyd happened, it just completely took off. Simultaneously, I had applied to be on a reality show.
Yeah.
And the show started to notice how all these different things were going on with woke activism. So they decided to take that and put that onto my character. So my character on the show was going to be a woke BLM activist who taught people how to be a BLM ally. So in the process of preparing to be on that show, I started like looking at different counter arguments so that I'd be good at debating, and I stumbled upon a Candace Owens video, and I got so just enraged by it because she was right about everything that she said. So I tried to debunk her. I was going to make a series debunking PragerU videos, and instead over the course of months I debunked my entire narrative, and I ended up red pilling myself essentially and just completely backed out of the show and switched my whole perspective.
So I know you're probably limited in being able to reveal information about this show, but like, what can you reveal? What was this about?
I can tell you the premise
Why
of
did
the
you
show.
apply for it? Why did you want to be on TV?
I was bored during the pandemic.
I understand that.
It was a joke. Like, I did not think I was going to get on this show.
Okay.
And at first I didn't even like the show, but my friends loved it. It was actually my roommate's girlfriend at the time really loved the show and was like, oh, Xavier, like you should apply. You'd be so funny on here. So I did it. And when I got the call back,
Thank you.
memory test.
Yes.
When I got the call back, it was the craziest thing. But essentially the show was you don't meet your competitors. So some people are their actual selves and some people are catfish on the show. And my character was supposed to be a catfish, essentially, where I portrayed a woke white sorority girl, essentially online, teaching people how to be a BLM activist. Like, my name was supposed to be Samantha. Like, I had the photos and everything ready. Like, that was the whole premise of the show.
Where the hell did the photos
I kind
come
of
from?
wish that this
My
had
friend
worked
Sam.
out.
Your friend Sam was the pictures of Samantha?
Yeah, shout out to my friend Sam.
Yeah.
I actually reached out to her because she was a sorority girl at the time. She had been to a couple protests, I think, at that point. So I hit her up. I was like, hey, can I use your pictures for a show? They'll give you $500. She's like, hell yeah.
It's
Amazing.
the easiest money you can make. But I really wish that this kind of panned out, honestly.
Is there a strong connection between groups like BLM and the celebrities that we see today? Like, I wonder about a pipeline, because nowadays I see, when I look up celebrities on social media, whether you have to because of work or whatever, so many of the young actors put activist in their bios, right? It's like it's almost required now, it seems like. Is there a lot of connections between those groups and celebrities?
Can you get a brand
yeah.
deal from BLM?
You got your name, image, likeness from your college. And you go,
Unironically,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you can have a direct brand deal from BLM, but from similar organizations, yes. And I know that, like, or I would say, like, in the movement for perspective, those movements, like the BLM movement, had a chokehold on Hollywood. Like, if you didn't post that black square, you got read for absolute filth. Which the funny, ironic thing is that at that point I was at the height of my wokeness. Like, I was as woke as ever before, and I even at that point thought the black square was so stupid. I thought posting the black square did nothing. I'm like, people are out here marching, people are getting petitions signed, people are actually doing real work in the community, and you think that posting a black square is going to end, which I now in retrospect think police brutality is essentially a myth, but I'm like, you think posting a black square is going to end police brutality? And at that point, just to troll, because again, I had been an activist for so many years, I took a picture of Nicki Minaj and I put this dark matte black overlay over her face so that if your brightness was all the way up, you could see that it was Nicki Minaj in the back. And people got so mad at me. People were trying to cancel me. I had white people trying to cancel me for posting a black square of Nicki Minaj. They're like, how dare you make a joke of this? I'm like, because it is a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to your original question. These organizations do have a chokehold on celebrities. They are told, again, like, by their labels, like, you have to support this cause. If you don't post about George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or any of these people, your fan base would be in your comments swarming you, attacking you, calling for you to be canceled, because they would say silence is violence, and that if you didn't go out and protest with them, then you were as bad as the enemy. It was this very much this tribalistic, you're with us or against this mentality.
It's crazy how much all of these groups are now connected. And I think that for the average person who's just looking at this stuff online, they don't see the connections in the same way, which almost makes it more nefarious to me, that it's all so connected and we don't, like, people just aren't ever going to know. It's like, who are the two influencers recently that they outed as being like paid influencers for, like,
it was Harry Sisson and this other, I think they're brothers, right?
Is that what it is?
They
like,
look alike, but maybe it's just because all Zoomers are looking alike to me these days.
They've all got the perm and the
but
fade.
they turned out to be, like, paid by the DNC.
He's still negating that. I actually listened to a debate of that last night. He's still swearing up and down that didn't happen. And I have a personal beef with him at this point, because a couple days ago, he and Chris were supposed to come hang out at my apartment in LA.
Oh.
As crazy as that is, I had a couple other
Just
like
have
conservative
a
leaning
discussion.
Yeah, we were all supposed to hot tub. Mind you, he was supposed to come to dinner, but then he was being like a little wuss. And then later on, when we were all supposed to come over and hot tub in my place, I was ready for bed. Like, it was 12:45 a.m. I had my do-rag on. I was comfortable. Like, I was asleep. When my do-rag is on, like, I'm not getting up. I'm not going outside. But he and his friend were, like, adamant to, like, come over, hot tub, have drinks, all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I get to meet him, and I'm going to hard press him on these questions, because I was really curious about his relationship to the DNC. Yeah. But then, like, last minute at, like, 1:30 a.m., they finally end up saying, oh, we're not coming. So I got personal beef with Harry. That was racist of him.
Honestly, yeah. Cancel him.
Cancel him. Cancel Harry.
Get his ass.
So you told me when we were on IRL was it 2 weeks ago now, or was it last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago now, right?
2 weeks.
I have no sense of time.
You said that that pop culture was your first love, that you loved this stuff before them. What did you grow up watching?
Oh, wow. VH1 reality shows raised me. Like, I'm talking Flava Flav. I'm talking Tiffany, New York Pollard, even like Rock of Love, I Love Money, all those shows. Real World, Jersey Shore.
There's an amazing meme. It says like there was once a reality show and Flavor Flav was the prize, and it's all the women, and all the women around him. And it's like, dude, I have to say this to Mary all the time. I'm like, it was a different time. Okay, it was like the world was different back then. Like the world wasn't the same. So it is what it is. I do also know we had a discussion yesterday on the show where a lot of people have been talking in these circles specifically about whether the right, and then you have to make the distinguishment, like you have to distinguish between the cultural right, the religious right, the traditional right, all of these sects. It's kind of like, because everything is so far left now that everyone gets kind of thrown into the label of right now. Do you believe that the right has a problem with underestimating the world of pop culture and movies and television, the importance of it in society?
Absolutely. Because what people on the right don't understand is that culture is now shaping politics. It's not the other way around anymore. And if we don't tap into culture, we're not going to reach Gen Z audiences, especially. And that's like, I get flack sometimes when I'll post about different celebrities and people are like, oh, well, why do you even care about these celebrities? Why are you paying attention to them?
Even
like,
we get comments like that.
We literally host a
On
show called Pop Culture Crisis, and they're like, why do I care about this person? I'm like, dude, I get, like, it's Julia Fox here. We mentioned Julia Fox, and they're like, I don't care about Julia Fox. I'm like, well, you know what? We're talking about it, okay? Because it matters. It does matter.
Yeah.
These people are influencing. They're not called influencers for no reason. Like, as cringe as that term is, these influencers, these TikTokers are telling your kids how to think. So if you're not paying attention to how these kids are, or what these kids are learning, then you're not going to know what's going on. And then even with young adults and Gen Z is now, I think, the largest voting bloc already. Yep. How are Gen Z people being influenced? They're not watching the news. They're not reading newspapers. And they don't trust majority of these televised sources. Most people don't even have cable anymore.
They're watching TikTok.
They're on social media. They're watching the Shade Room. And what is the Shade Room full of? Celebrities, influencers, and these different people. The right needs to tap into that. I'm not saying that the right needs to go and get Dylan Mulvaney to come represent them. That's what people always assume I mean. I'm like, no, the right needs to start getting people who are relevant to the space, even if it's like a fitness influencer. People are listening to them. People are people are crafting their entire lifestyle based on how some of these fitness influencers are living. So contact them. And a lot of them are right-leaning too.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.